about to say that. Thank you.
Anyway, we have an array of issues we will be looking at this morning. Of course, talking about the explosion that happened on the CMG bus vehicle. We're going to talk about that, and then we're also going to look at what the World Bank is saying about our economy. And then we're also going to talk about developments in Ogun State, infrastructural developments, how far the state government has come. But first, we'll begin with this story, where good news for civil servants nationwide, as they will start receiving the new minimum wage by the end of this month. The highest minimum wage is 85,000 naira, which will be paid by Lagos and Rivers State. Delta will be paying 77,500 and Ogun will be paying 77,000 naira, amongst others. This comes after the organized labor gave all governors an October deadline to implement the new wage or face industrial unrest. Although many of the states have concluded talks with organized labor on the amount they will pay, some are yet to finalize the procedure. Interesting. Kwara State has come out to say that they will be paying 70,000 naira as it is. Ondo says it will pay 73,000 naira. Kogi is paying 72,500. Gombe says it will pay 71,500 naira. Ebonyi, Edo, Jigawa, Kwara, Anambra, Adamawa, and Kanu are saying they will pay 70,000 naira as it is. And Bauchi, Cross River, Benue, Akwa Ibom, Oyo, Osun, Abia, Enugu, Plateau, and Imo States are still working out the modalities on what exactly they would be paying. Interesting.
I mean, working out the modalities is, very important when you take a look at how much of revenue each state really
the viability
has,
of each state.
the viability of each state to actually
Absolutely.
pay. Well, this is, a significant step in ensuring that workers are properly, compensated. They receive fair compensation, especially for those who have been saying that possibly the minimum wage has been grossly inadequate. It's imperative to actually increase this due to the rising cost of living that we see. Not just to improve the standard of living of the average Nigerian worker, but also, push the economy towards growth. And like you mentioned, it's important for stakeholders to actually work together to ensure a seamless transition. And let's not forget there is the issue of arrears that we still see in some states today. And so an agreement is very necessary, at this time to ensure that in the long run, small businesses in each state will be able to afford this. There is the concern about having small businesses
25
if
staffers,
they can actually afford. And we are looking at the downside of this. Possibly, it may result in job losses. And so an agreement has to be made to ensure that the major stakeholders in this sector, like the meeting earlier with the president, the NLC and the private sector, to ensure that this transition is as smooth as possible.
Seamless as possible. But my concern is that the NLC didn't have to mount pressure on the state governors for them to begin to speak about how much they are going to pay. Because this agreement had been reached earlier, that's about June, July sometime in the year, and people were waiting with bated breath, workers were waiting, some had even made plans with the monies after it was announced that it was going to be 70,000 naira for the minimum wage. And up until now that the NLC is, mounting pressure, we're seeing governors coming out. And it's good that each and every one of them know their capacity and they are saying, okay, this is how far we can go. But it must be understood that the 70,000 naira is just the benchmark. There are other areas, like you rightly pointed out, that were coming. So it is not that the least worker is not necessarily going home with 70,000 naira, but that is the benchmark. And so those that have said 85,000 naira is not meaning that there's much more that will come as areas that will improve those monies for them beyond 85,000 naira. But how this will impact our already rising inflation is what is the concern now in some quarters, because as we know, when there's an increase in the salaries of workers, the attendant implication is that the prices of goods and services are also increasing. So how do we strike a balance? Because the argument that some people have put forward is that we should have a living wage, not a minimum wage, such that it is not about inflation is not impacting as much as we see what people take home, that they can still have something tangible. Because when you look at the price of food, goods and services, and the food, which is one of the basic needs of man, how much can a lot of people afford as it is? Well, let's see how far this will go. We hope that government will be able to sustain this. Yes, sustenance is very key. They can sustain this amount, even though they have looked at their coffers to see, okay, this is the amount we can accommodate now. But on the long run, will they be able to sustain it? Because inflation is on the rise, the cost of governance is also on the rise. Where will we be looking at cutting down on one thing or the other so that we can, sustain what we have? Governments need to also begin to sit down and look out beyond the box, breaking the box to say, you know what, we need to improve on our IGR. And so also that people now need to pay their taxes. We know that there's the matter of multiple taxes where governments generate money from. One major area is taxation. There's been the concern of taxation, but how that will come into the mix is also very crucial.
And, I really do not believe, taxation has, been an issue. Basically, it's how we utilize some of these taxes that we get. And talking about striking a balance, it's also important, that possibly federal government looks into some incentives, especially for these small businesses. When we're talking about subsidy, I think it should go beyond just the salaries, go beyond fuel, go beyond food items, but we should be looking into services like health services, agriculture, and other sectors that will impact.
That's why there's health insurance. How wide have we come with the coverage?
To an extent,
there's so many areas that needs to be looked into, but we have to bring you the news update right now. Now, Vice President Kashim Shettima will lead Nigeria's delegation to the 2024 Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting scheduled for the